12 years ago, she offered $5 to a hitchhiker during her shift at the gas station. A simple moment of kindness she'd long forgotten. Today, a mysterious stranger stands on her doorstep. She has no idea who he is or how this encounter will change her life forever. She placed her hand on her stomach as it growled once more. 12 hours of starvation and fever, and a 52-year-old woman like her had endured it all. But how long, she asked herself. How much longer must she endure this pain? How much more pain was she meant to suffer? She knew one shouldn't doubt the Almighty, but today she couldn't help questioning him. Why? Why her? Why had he planned so much pain for her? She had always been righteous, yet he took her son away. The thought of Billy made her more vulnerable, and the tears she had been holding back began to roll down her cheeks. Asterisk me, boy, if you had been here, you wouldn't have let me suffer asterisk, she thought, sobbing hard, lying on her bed. Asterisk, why did that dreadful accident have to happen? Why did it take my boy away? My Billy, asterisk. She broke down in tears, and then the doorbell rang. Asterisk, who could that be at this hour? Asterisk, she wondered, glancing at the clock on her bedside table. It was 8:00 p.m. No one ever came to visit her at this time. Asterisk, who had come now, asterisk. She was all alone. The fever and hunger had taken a toll on her. She hadn't been able to go to work for days. There wasn't anyone to take care of her, to cook for her, or even open the door. So she had to do it herself. With a spinning head and weak steps, she made her way toward the door. She was running out of breath by the time she reached it. The walls beside her provided some support, but that was all. After taking 2 or 3 deep breaths, she opened the door to find a man around 30 or 31 standing there. He looked well-dressed. She could tell from his shoes and attire that he came from an affluent background. That meant this man was a stranger, because only 2 or 3 people she knew had that kind of status. Asterisk, had he gotten the wrong address, asterisk, that thought crossed her mind as she curiously examined the man, who gave her a warm smile and asked, "Mrs. Dawson?" "Yes, that's me. Do I know you?" she asked. The man smiled and said, "No, but you do know a young boy whom you gave $5 to when he was hitchhiking home. Do you remember?" She frowned and drifted back in time to 12 years ago, when she was a young, healthy woman earning her living while working at a gas station. She had been working her regular shift when she overheard a conversation. Since she didn't have much work at the moment, she felt a bit curious and decided to investigate. There was a young boy, around 18 or 19, and a nearly drunk man in his 40s. The drunk man was in the driver's seat while the young boy looked tired, scared, and angry. It wasn't in her nature to intervene, but today she did. Somehow, the boy's exhausted face tugged at her heart. She had a boy about the same age, so the mother inside her compelled her to step in. She asked the boy, "Hello, sir. What's going on?" "Ma'am," the boy hurriedly approached her and said, "See, ma'am, I'm hitchhiking home, and I don't have much money. I took a lift from this gentleman, but I didn't know he would ask for money. He asked me to pay for gas at the last station, and after an argument I paid. Now he's asking again, and I don't have enough money left. How can I pay him?" "No money, no ride," the drunk man slurred. "You didn't mention this when I asked for a ride. If you had, I wouldn't have accepted," the boy said with tearful eyes. She understood that the drunk man was trying to take advantage of the young boy. Feeling sorry for him, she took $5 from her purse and handed it to the boy. "Here, take this and pay him. Get rid of him before he makes your ride unbearable," she advised. The boy looked surprised. He hadn't expected this. "You're sure you want to give this to me?" he asked. "Do you doubt it?" She replied with a smile. The boy's face lit up with gratitude, but before either could say another word, the drunk man snatched the money from the boy's hand and grumbled, "This will do for now. You getting back in?" "No," she said firmly. She wasn't about to let the young boy continue traveling with such a man. Thankfully, the man took her answer without much fuss and soon drove off. The boy looked at her with a mix of questions and a hint of fear. She understood both emotions, patted his shoulder, and reassured him. "Don't worry. I'll find you a better ride, someone trustworthy. You're too young to tell the difference between a good and bad person." The boy smiled innocently, appreciating her words. A short while later, they found him another lift. The boy hugged her tightly, saying, "Thank you. You don't know how much you've helped me. I owe you my life." She patted his hair and replied, "I have a boy about your age. You remind me of him. I do this for my own son." The boy smiled and said, "I'll never forget you. I'll do my best to be there for you when you need it most." Those were his last words to her, and after that day, she never saw him again. Well, that's life. People come and go like passengers on a train, but sometimes they come back, like today. "You," she muttered in disbelief, looking at him. She could barely stand, feeling both weak and shocked. Her entire world spun before her, and everything became a blur. Slowly, she began to lose consciousness. But before collapsing, she remembered two strong hands catching her. After that, she remembered nothing. She felt as though Billy's hand was gently caressing her forehead. It felt so peaceful, so soothing. It was heavenly. She sighed as the touch continued. But then reality hit her. Billy was gone. Who could it be? Was she dreaming? Slowly, she opened her eyes and saw him, the boy she had helped all those years ago, now grown into a man. He was standing there, looking at her with concern. "How are you feeling?" he asked, moving closer. "Heavenly," she replied with a smile. He sighed, relieved, as he held her hand. After a while, she asked, "Why? Why did you come to me?" The man remained silent for a moment, as though gathering his thoughts. After a brief pause, he said, "My name is Jonathan. I only had my mother in my life." "That day, you were going to see your mother?" she asked weakly. Jonathan nodded. "I stayed in the city for my studies, while my mom lived in the suburbs. I often hitchhiked home because I didn't have much money. I used to surprise her, and she loved it. That day, I was hitchhiking again to surprise her, but I had bad luck. I ran into that drunk man." Jonathan paused, as if remembering something painful. He rubbed his eyes, trying to stop himself from crying. She reached out and held his hand, just as she used to when Billy was feeling down. It worked for Jonathan, too. He smiled at her, then continued, "You came like an angel and saved me from him. I don't know if I would have made it home in time without you. If I had been any later, I wouldn't have seen my mom before she passed." Jonathan broke down in tears, and she was stunned by what he said. She had been lying down, but now she sat up and moved closer to him, gently patting his back as he cried, holding her tightly. After a while, he calmed down and explained, "My mother had been ill for a long time, but she never told me. She didn't want me to give up my studies to be with her. She was right, too. But on her deathbed, she was asking for me. No one could get hold of me because my phone wasn't working. If it hadn't been for you, I wouldn't have gotten there in time. I was able to say goodbye to her." Her heart broke hearing this. She knew the pain of losing someone you love. She closed her eyes, feeling her own tears well up, but she bit her lip to hold them back. Suddenly, she realized that she wasn't at home. Where was she, and how had Jonathan found her after all these years? Jonathan understood her unspoken questions and said, "I saw you at the hospital. I was visiting a friend, and I heard you crying for your son. I recognized you right away, but before I could reach you, you left. I've been looking for you ever since, and now here we are." "What do you want from me?" she asked. "I want you to be with me and not alone," he said, his eyes full of love. She was speechless for a moment. That empty house with no sign of Billy was killing her slowly. "I know the pain of being alone." "I've lived with it for 12 years, Jonathan said, placing his hand over hers. She gripped it tightly. Tears flowed down her cheeks, and this time she didn't hold them back. Neither did Jonathan. They hugged, and two lonely souls finally found peace after so long. As they sat together in the quiet house, they both understood something simple but powerful. Life can be hard, but it's the small acts of kindness that can change everything. That $5 she gave Jonathan years ago seemed like nothing at the time, but it came back to her when she needed it most. Sometimes the good we do for others finds its way back to us, even when we feel lost. It wasn't just about repaying a debt. It was about connection and knowing that none of us are truly alone. If we care for each other, life's challenges don't disappear. But having someone by your side makes all the difference.